Hey everybody, welcome to No Breakaways, your source for all the Zwift racing tips and tricks. Excited to be back for another episode of Outside the Draft with my two awesome co-hosts, my favorite people to talk Zwift with. First of all, we have Jackie Godby of Cyrus Pro's Closet of Noon Hydration. Jackie, what is going on?
Not much. Just getting a lot of vitamin D out here in sunny Southern California.
Yeah, you're away from Northern Illinois, so it's quite a bit different. And of course, we have Jordan Shane, pro cyclist for Elevate Webaplex, Finesse Esports, and peakformcoaching.com. Jordan, what's happening, man?
Oh, we got a little relief from the smoke. It finally rained on Sunday, so you can kind of see the mountains.
Nice.
It was nice because they're only like 10K away. So, yeah, we couldn't see down the driveway last week, so it's a little nicer to ride outside. And yeah, we're in the final stages of prep for some racing here, and my athletes are kicking ass too, and they're racing because we're racing in British Columbia now. And so far, BC athletes, 3 athletes, 4 races, 4 podiums.
Really?
Peakformcoaching.com.
And I saw one of your athletes won a Zwift race today. So,
Good day.
yeah.
Didn't even-
Today or yesterday. Yeah.
Well,
I hope
there
I'm
you
not
go.
calling her out. She's also on Jackie's team. So, kind of
Oh,
like
Esta. Yeah,
double,
Esta. Sorry. Yeah,
double win.
Esta.
Double win
I was
there.
like, who is that that's winning? It's
Yeah.
certainly not me. I don't know. Well, congratulations, Esta.
Yeah. You got his Zwift power stalk a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and of course, reminder to the viewers, if you have questions, type them in. Always, the interaction's always fun. So yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about this week, and I think we should hop into it. Anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we get going? I'm on my rest week, so I'm like ready to go. I'm hyped up.
Super G'd. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I delayed my rest week by a day, and I'm just off, nearly setting a new 10-second power sprint. So I'm exhausted.
There we go. Jordan, let's make an agreement that we are not going to ask Jackie about her 10-second power sprint numbers. We're just going to move right on from that because we're going to be embarrassed.
1158 watts.
No. I'm going to
Oh
guess.
God, I wish.
I'm going to guess 952, just hopefully. What is it?
You're psychic, man.
Is it
It was
952?
9:53 today.
Yes.
9:53.
What, Rick? I mean, go buy a lottery
yeah.
ticket.
So,
Time to start sports betting again, buddy. You got the groove.
right? So
Got
the
the
reason I
high
guessed that is because it's just below what I can do. So
Ah.
I was hoping she'd be just below what I can do, but I think we're probably like the same. So
You
our
realize
race-
now it's a race to see who can get 4 digits for 10 seconds.
our race is going to be good, Jackie. Our race
Yeah.
is going to be good.
4 digits for 1 second?
Oh, I can do that. I can do that right now. Can you do that? I'm sure, Jackie, you can do that too. What's your max 1 second?
Me?
No, we're not worried. This is the only thing I can talk about where I'm better than you at it, Jordan.
1,036 watts once in a crit is what I got.
That's pretty good.
That
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
for
I'll give
1
you that.
second.
What's yours, Jackie? 1100?
I think I got the 1.2
gigawatts.
bat once.
Okay.
Once. But
Oh.
Yeah, I
yeah,
got
I
that.
don't
I
do
got
1
that.
seconds.
Now I wish
I got
wouldn't
that for a
have.
glitch in my trainer, and I kept it because
Yeah.
you know what?
You should keep
You're
it.
not. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth that way. So
No. My goal is to get that not because of a glitch before ZRL season starts. So I'm gonna start my doing sprints every Friday, trying to get that up. But yeah. So
I
we're
mean,
going.
that's my strategy here. It's like Friday, end of the week, when I'm too tired to do anything else. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hit sprints today. I only have to be on for like 5 seconds at a time. The rest of the workout can be totally chill. And it'll pay off eventually.
looking at my Friday calendar right now. Now we're booked up for sprints for the next 40 weeks, so just not going to be able to do it, guys.
So wait, were you officially throwing down a gauntlet? Who can get the 10 second over 4
Over
digits,
1,000.
Jackie? Is that an official one? And we're gonna.
I am now. What's the bet?
I don't know. We'll have to come up with some terms. I'm flustered now. I'm on the spot.
I
So-
mean, my go-to is candy, so I'd probably just have to like ship you candy or something.
100% candy.
Oh, it's got to be negative. It's got to be a painful for the loser. That's how these things go. Come on now.
It's got to be painful for the loser.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know about you, but I am personally motivated more by chocolate than anything else.
100%.
So if there's anything that's going to get me to hold 4 digits for 10 seconds, it's going to be the promise of chocolate.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I'll be the arbiter of this. I'll figure it out.
I mean, I'm trying it tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I have an
And we
advantage.
take suggestions in the chat. If you guys have any fantastic ideas for what we should bet, let us know.
Absolutely. Or drop us a note on Instagram if you're listening to the podcast later. But yeah, and we have our Crit City race we got to do, Jackie, that we got to set up.
Yeah.
Where you're on, I think, a mountain bike, and I am on the Tron. I think that's what it
And
was
now that Zwift has dropped its new racing rules,
oh yes,
I can
nice, Jackie. Beautiful segue. I loved it. She was sick of talking about this. That was really nice. Okay. First, because I feel like our racing rules is gonna take a long time. Let's talk about the ZRL schedule. Did you guys get a chance to check that out this week? See, they dropped a schedule. There were a lot of little nuggets in there. The first one that I noticed, and I was actually going back and forth with Kevin Bouchard Hall about this, is like AutoCat versus what's going on. How are they going to do that? Is it going to bust up teams? There was a lot of concern about that. It looks like they're doing traditional A to D categories. I think that's a huge positive. I actually really have been impressed with AutoCat recently and how it's been working and how it's been sticking groups together. There's always going to be people at the back, right? AutoCat is not like designed for you to win, but I heard a lot of really, really positive feedback this week. So kudos to WTRL on that. Also kudos to them on sticking those A to Ds so that teams don't have to scramble to try to figure out where they're supposed to be.
I think that's exactly it right there. AutoCat is a good new step forward, probably best at the individual level while we still figure it out, and letting teams, which, last season I think we saw that particularly in the playoffs and particularly in the women's field, we had enough difficulty just getting teams to stick together that while we're aiming to really solidify the league and solidify team competitions as valid and fun, we need to minimize any and all impediments in the way.
Yeah.
And until we really work the bugs out of AutoCat, I think we need to hold off there.
Yeah, definitely. And I know both of you two are your Fancy Pants Premier League riders, but I saw there's 2 qualifying races. We have 6 races after that, and then playoffs. What do you think of that format?
I'm not sure what the qualification is gonna entail. I don't know if anybody knows.
I can say what I think. I think what they're doing, and I really like this, is what they had done is you're a new team, you come in and say there's 7 B categories, you're in B7.
Okay.
Then you win B7, you go to B6. Then you win B6. So like it would take you forever to get to B1, even though you might be stomping everybody, right? So I think what they're doing is kind of like resetting it, throwing everybody together. They're going to take the top 3 teams from each one and put them in B1. And then, I really like what they're doing.
So sort of the AutoCat with the qualifying races.
Yeah, like they're going to auto put you in your division within your category, which I think that's a big step because there were a lot of teams that was just taking forever.
That won't apply to Premier League then, eh? We'll just get either two extra races or we'll just start later.
I think you just start later.
Sure.
Because our season starts on the 28th of September, and I think yours will start on October 11th. And then I don't think you all have the playoffs either. So you have a 6-race series.
I'll say it right now. I'm probably going to miss the ZRL season this year or the Premier League just because of the your in real life racing schedule. I'm racing September, October, November.
Okay.
So it's a fair amount of travel in there. So I probably will miss this one, which is totally fine. I think the calendar's still in the right place. Like, don't move it for in real life. I bet a lot of in real life events will go a little later this year, but I don't think that's going to have enough of an effect that they should fiddle around with it. Hopefully it gets as hot a start as last fall. Like that was really wicked and moving those, like not using AutoCat probably facilitates that to a large degree. And what you just talked about with the qualifiers facilitates it too, makes it a little more of an on ramp for people, which is good. You said Premier League is back on Mondays, which I think maybe that's okay in the fall because there aren't real events that people are doing on the weekends as much, especially in the later parts of that season. But I don't know. Tuesday was a lot better. It just seems like morally to fit better to have race on Tuesday. Like I've never raced on Monday in my whole life other than the stage race.
I'm gonna be honest, I like racing on Tuesday just because when I'm on a 9 to 5 schedule, and this is a big when, because I'm not going to be on a 9 to 5 schedule during this season. But when I'm on that Monday through Friday 9 to 5 schedule and I'm racing, like I like to put my big rides on the weekends. You know,
Yeah, of course.
you can't ride 3-4 hours on a random Thursday night when, you work until 6. So I really see my volume get significantly cut down because I can't have 2 volume rides in a week when they're on Mondays. Like I just can't.
You gotta wonder why. Like, did they think that because viewership definitely dropped in the last season, but I don't think that it was at all to do with the day of the week. I think that was like we've had 24 races and they're all the friggin' same in the Premier League, like the results wise. So like people aren't watching anymore. That's a whole other topic, but I don't think it had anything. If
I
that's
mean,
why, otherwise I don't really see it. I don't see
It
why.
was all the same on the guys' side, I'll say.
Well,
For the
yeah,
women's
100%.
team, it was more or less the same. I mean,
Till the end there.
till the
Until
end,
the end.
till the end. But women's
I mean, do you
individual.
really want to compete with like Monday Night Football is my question.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean, if only you should be so lucky to compete with Monday Night Football.
yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what we need to do. We need to have a football league, like
Yeah,
you
let's
do your
try it.
ZRL race and then you sit down, you have your post-race beer and you watch football.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
that needs to be a community team league of its own.
yeah.
Yeah. Tuesday would have been preferable, but
Yeah.
as I think Premier League are kind of used to getting pushed around by Zwift a lot, so the riders will probably just take it.
Well, I mean, yeah, what choice do you have? I mean, my
Yeah.
my hope a little bit is that we are able to, with the Premier League in particular, that we're able to make it more like spicier. I mean, what Canyon has won every single men's one, and Haino has won every single women's one. Both teams are incredibly deserving, like just fantastic riders, excellent strategy, all that. But I think it makes it, harder. And some of the courses. I mean, I hope they have some sprinter courses here. I would like to see some of the big sprinters that you see in games, some of the highest ranked guys come out and be able to sprint for a win.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun instead of basically having every men's course played a Freddie Ovid, right?
Hey, where's Freddie?
I
Can we
know we
start a
should.
hashtag?
We
Where's Freddie?
we
Like,
got
where's he right now?
we got to invite him on. We'll invite him on. I'll ping him on Instagram, or he's probably listening right now. Let's see.
Yeah.
There are 2 people listening. Or watching. I'm 3. I'm sure one is Freddie Ovid. So come on, Freddie. No, but I really would like to. I'd like to see some of that, and maybe
That was
Freddie wins
my
in the
that was
sprint.
my other note on the schedule is a little disappointing just to see it be points races and team time trials again. Like we talked about opportunities for a lot of different formats, even an individual time trial, like we talked about cross country scoring for that would have been cool. Like lots of we just want the story to be different. I feel like even like you're talking about the end of the story is often the same in both leagues, I know wins or Freddie Ovet wins or whatever, but the story along the way could be a lot more exciting. We got a bit of that with the different courses in season 3, but it would have been cool, like to see some different formats. But
I was actually thinking about it this last week. How we could do different formats, and to your point of really wanting to involve the sprinters and really experimenting with new races. One thing I would have actually really liked to see is almost putting more of these multi-sprint events like back to back to back, like saying we want to see a 1 kilometer PT, you have 10 minutes, then you do a 400-meter sprint, and then 10 minutes later you have a 10K TT.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
good.
do a
That was on yesterday, actually, on the track in the Olympics, is the Omnium, and it's basically a
yeah,
collection of different
Yeah.
sprint
exactly.
events. Like, they sound just as crazy
Yeah,
as the stuff that we've been cooking up. Like, honestly, some of those
Yeah.
events are like,
yeah.
last guy in the pack gets eliminated every time around the track. What
I
the hell is
know.
that about? But
That'd be cool.
Cycling comes up with the coolest stuff, and we
That'd be
should
cool.
totally steal it.
yeah, we could do stuff like that for
Yeah.
sure.
What I would love to see, especially in the Premier League, is a flight format where everybody's number one riders go, and then there's a different race for the number twos, different race for the number three, and then you get a whole bunch of people. Because right now, and this is no offense to everybody, every single person in the Premier League would beat me so bad in every single race. But like the number 4 or 5 guys, people, men and women, never get a chance to like go for a win. How cool would it be if you're the best number 5 rider to get a win? To get a win.
Oh. And I would say too that if you made it smaller groups like that, you'd actually see some riders play to their strengths differently as well. Because right now it's just on the men's side, it's like let's ride around at 5 watts a kilogram and then sprint at the end, right? But in a small group of like 10, totally different. It would be almost like that track sprint where they're super slow for a while and they, that would happen because no one would want to take it on and. So yeah, that's a little disappointing, but maybe you can't expect so much. It's such a big undertaking to start the season off again. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we are making a lot of big changes. And
Yeah.
so, I do think there is something to be said for a little bit of incrementalism, like definitely make changes. They're changing the physics, they're changing a lot of the rules, they're changing a lot of the qualifications. Maybe next season we can see some more of these more exciting races. Like I still agree with you. I want to see more variety, more excitement, but we do have some very big changes coming up that I'm very interested to see how they play out with as well.
Especially to do with the new rules.
Yeah, so one more I gotta hold us back for just a second. What do you two think of a full third of the season being on McCurry Island?
Yeah, wild. I don't know. It's cool, I guess. Like
Okay.
it's got enough features where it could play to everybody's strengths a little bit. Be interesting to see some bike changes maybe. That'd be cool, right? There's actual dirt. We haven't raced a lot on dirt at all. Have we ever raced on dirt in the ZRL?
Yes.
So far?
Yeah. For a little bitty hill where the steamroller happened.
Oh, that,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I don't count
And we
that
didn't
as
get the
much.
steamroller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys didn't get the steamroller, so you don't count it. For those of us who were woefully out of shape and didn't get the steamroller on the first time up, we count it. We count it big time. When you're riding around with the other 60th place people lamenting the steamroller.
Right.
So, okay, let's get to the rules. I know, you two have both tried to push me there early. Jackie with her beautiful segue, and then Jordan also with another really nice segue. Both much better than my segue of just saying, let's do it. Okay, let's go down the list here. I know you want to hop to other things, but please indulge me a little bit. So they're disallowing all trainers, and Jordan is going to immediately jump and correct me. So go for it, Jordan. Get ready. They're disallowing all trainers with anything over a plus or minus 2% accuracy. So Jordan, correct what I just said.
Claimed accuracy by the manufacturer, which does not mean anything. Come on, man. It doesn't mean anything. And some of these are really nice trainers, and we'll talk about in a minute, like where exactly these rules extend to. Like, is this a community thing, Premier only, certain levels ZRL? But like, got some nice trainers. The Tax Flux, which especially the 2 and the S, I feel like are good units. The Ceres H2, which like so many riders use. Elite Doretto, which is totally fine. Cyclops Hammer, which is like an OG great unit. Those all solid trainers.
Wait, go back. Those are off the list? The Ceres H2 and the Hammer?
Specifically off the list. Like in the original handout, like they named the TAC Flux, they named the Ceres H2.
And
like these are very specifically called out as no longer allowed.
Holy.
And it's striking that there's not a Wahoo trainer that is disallowed. And it's like, because if you're in the inside gossip of Premier League, the Kicker Core is the most problematic trainer there is. And the Wahoo models in general, because of that exposed belt, are very tamperable compared to. There's a reason we were on Neos for the World Championships.
If you're
Let's
in the
just put it
inner
that
gossip of any single e-cycling serious thing, the kicker core
way.
is a problem.
Yeah, okay, but it's not on this list. And then you got the Elite Doretto claimed 2.5% accuracy. Isn't the marketing department now going like, crap, I wish we went with 2%? Because guaranteed it's just made up. Like
So
it's a ballpark,
Yeah.
you know?
And I mean, a lot of these, I will say, you know, troubleshooting how to do appropriate calibration spin ups. We're going to get to this very shortly. A lot of this has to do with your spin up and warm up protocol.
yeah.
Like I will say with my H3, I can do 2 20-minute warm ups, and one of them will give me a very much lower calibration than the other. And a lot of it has to do with how you're warming it up, how you're taking care of the belt,
Hmm.
all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's not very many trainers, period, that are not susceptible to that. Like, I think the Neo is one of the only ones that's fully internal, and nobody likes it because it reads pretty low overall,
I
right?
like
And
my
that's what I
Neo.
race on.
Like my
You know,
Neo.
Just
I,
so
I
everybody
actually did
knows,
love
I race.
never having to calibrate it. That was lovely.
That is
Yeah, it's a great unit.
that's why I got
but
it. I
yeah,
paid a you pay a lot of extra money for that. And I think the new kicker you don't have to calibrate. I
yeah.
think I mean
It's
my
still exposed. I think it's still exposed belt though. It's not internal. So
my
anyway,
biggest
that's a big.
my biggest issue with all this is if you're going to be serious, and I want, we're going to get to this a little bit later. I want Zwift to be really serious, and I want them to take hold of this. I want it to be under Zwift's jurisdiction. But if you're going to do that, you need to test these trainers. It can't be claimed accuracy by a trainer manufacturer, and you need to deal with this spin down and calibration issue, right? Or you need to be super serious about DQing the hell out of people if duels are
Right.
off. Which
Yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
don't.
we talk about this all the time and during the season is like you disallow certain trainers, but then the duels you see are sometimes -8% to the power meter. And it's like, okay, well, which do you care about? The trainer model or the actual accuracy that is being posted? Because that's not good enough. And
Yeah,
this is sort of I really applaud the effort to
I
do
do
it,
too.
but this is a red herring.
Yeah,
Like totally.
and
I think, we're also going to I think the next step here is also saying which dual powers are allowed.
hmm
Right. Where's the line?
Because I'm using, a very, very old, can't even- like it's a very old model that, the pedals I'm using two have more than plus or minus 2% accuracy. So, going down the line, now that, even though I do have a compliant trainer, will I need to upgrade my dual recording to fit within that accuracy?
I
Right.
mean, some of it
Yeah.
goes back to like the idea of accuracy. So I'm an engineer. I'm a nerd, right? Like you don't know what's accurate. Like you don't know what any of this is accurate. Like
You know what's precise, right? You don't know what's accurate.
yeah, yeah. So like I think that's something that somebody's going to have to wrestle with. And I know people have tried, and certainly dual recording goes somewhat, but like it's a really tough one. And I know GP Llama commented on these esports rules, I think on Facebook yesterday, saying that he was going to test some stuff or had some tests, and they weren't going to like how it came back. I forgot to go back to Facebook and check this. I should have, but it's like we should also have GP Llama on. And if
Yeah.
you're if
Well,
you're
that would
listening,
be a get.
if you're listening,
I'll be talking Australian accent by the end, but you
yeah,
know,
this
yeah,
is the knife
uh,
sort of thing. I'm not going to do an Australian accent. I think there's a guy from Australia actually listening to this, so I'm not going to offend him by doing my terrible Australian accent. But
And furthermore to this, I was on 4 different trainers competing at, the professional level within a 2-month period last year. So, kicker core, the old, like very, very loud classic Wahoo kicker, the H3 and the TAC X. And, I actually noticed, and I was dual recording on all of them. I didn't notice differences at or near my FTP. That was not where I was noticing power differences, wasn't noticing differences of what I could hold. What I really noticed was more how responsive they were when I spun up. You know, how responsive were they to that final sprint? How responsive were they to that cadence change or to that, sudden change in incline from 0 to 15%?
Yep.
And I think that is actually, you know, more important tactically in a race once we get down to that final sprint.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that I agree might actually be more worthwhile to look into because if and they've already addressed this. We'll get to this later on with their eliminating the sticky draft. But I think that responsiveness
Sticky
and
watts.
lag time, that
Sticky
lag
draft
time,
is here to
Yeah,
stay.
sticky watts.
yeah,
Sticky watts. Yeah.
sticky watts. But I think the lag time, the communication, the software, and even the size of the flywheel are going to be very, very can be very decisive and maybe even more impactful than, this decimal of a percentage of watts at steady state.
Yeah. And I mean, plus or minus 2% accuracy at what? Right. And I mean, I was actually noticing today because I was doing a trainer road workout while I ride Zwift. That's just what I always do. And there was maybe like a quarter second lag between my Bluetooth, which was hooked up to trainer road, that reacted really fast, and my Ant
Yeah.
Plus, which was on Zwift, which I thought was super interesting that even that connection needs to be regulated so that everyone is kind of on a level playing field ish, right?
So here's my thing, and I thought about this quite a bit because it's such a quagmire with these trainers, and like they're all different. It's not an ever going to be an equal playing field unless it's like Worlds and y'all send everybody the same one. Because like Jackie said, they react differently, their accuracy is different, the precision is different. I think I'm kind of in favor of measuring outcomes on this one in terms of the dual recording, and that does not solve all the problems at all. But I think that you could actually make a stronger case for only having certain power meters allowed for dual recording because some of them are not, you cannot tamper with them effectively, or it's very obvious if you do. They're very accurate and they're all doing the same kind of thing. They're not measuring, they're not estimating. And so if we had that, and then we just said, hey, your dual has got to be within 3% or whatever it is, they have metadata, they could figure out a line.
Yeah.
And sorry, like I'm not calling you a cheater, but if it's 8% one day, that doesn't count. And that's on you too, because it's your equipment. So like I know before every Premier League race, the day before, I would fully dual record to make sure it was tracking. Never do that in training, but like just make sure it's tracking, make sure it's close, make sure my drivetrain's clean, like all that stuff. And then if it fails on race day, like sorry, but it's not fair. So like I think that's the way around. This list of trainers is
So, Stefan on the chat said there should be an international body for trainer validation certification. I love that, like an ANSI standard, like they have for weights and measurements, right?
Yeah.
And then
I
maybe,
mean,
you
Swimming does this in terms of their racing suits. Like,
yeah,
we had this revolution back in the early 2000s when Speedo was starting to introduce these like positive buoyancy suits. So I think that would be reasonable if
that is good.
esports goes up to that level where we're starting to say, yes, we are this international sport. We are having our own worlds. We need to regulate what is and is not acceptable.
I think they're.
So
Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
I think that's a good step. And that solves the incidental, not cheating, incidental inaccuracy. It does not solve the tampering aspect.
Right.
And like I hate to say it, but it's very like I have some nerdy friends and stuff that are like, oh yeah, you can totally get into that thing. And it's as simple as loosening and doing this or, cooling it down. And so you could ANSI certify whatever you want, and then somebody can just, jack it up. And so I
Well,
think yeah.
all you have to do for that, like they do in race cars, they just paint over all the bolts.
Right.
And all you have to do is be like,
Is every trainer amendable to that though?
Well, I mean,
And then
you could be like,
do we have to show our bolts?
yeah, every once in a while, Jordan, send me a picture of your bolts. Send me a
Yeah.
picture, and it has to be validated from that day. And in
And
addition,
I
I
thought
think,
about this too. I like that spot check idea too. And I thought about this because there's also electronic ways like intercepts and stuff you can cheat. I thought a spot check before the race, you pick 10 randoms and just say, show me your setup, show me all your connections.
yeah,
Like you don't
Like
have a
drug
little,
testing.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just show me all everything connected to your computer.
Yeah.
Should be no problem. Like you have your webcam and your Amp Plus, and but if there's an extra box on there that's catching USB, then maybe we talk.
And I mean,
You
I know
know,
track athletes, they get done, they're in the top 3 at Olympics, they got to go to the P tent. You
yeah.
know,
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been in
I
the
mean,
P10
and
time trick.
that
what's
was for
that?
UCI Worlds too.
Y-
Like they
Yeah.
had USADA was tracking us for drug
Oh, yeah,
testing, and
that's right.
honestly, showing somebody my AT stick is a lot easier than a random drug test.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they should also have some sort of mandated warm up period that you do on Zwift and that you post, because then the trainer is warmed up, right? And then I mean, like, there's a number of things I think they could implement because there is money at stake here, right? I mean, if we want this to be at the very top level, and you're not going to do this in ZRL, but like, there are some not simple. I mean, it's annoying. It would be super annoying for you guys, and I'm glad I don't have to do it. But that's kind of the price you pay for being amazing, right? So,
So I will
Yeah.
say, the Echelon Racing League on RGT, as part of the pre-race validation before every weekend, would have you send in a video of your warm up, your calibration. They said your warm up must be between 10 and 20 minutes long.
yeah,
Show us a video of you as you spin down. So that was a
I
pain in the
like that.
butt, but I do respect that. And that was certainly one way they were doing it, for Zwift Racing League, and again, the verification system that they had on ERL. Like we are starting to have to submit pictures of our trainers, pictures of our bike setups. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I like
I,
that.
I
I
don't
come
think
down.
that it's without precedent to say, let's have these video spot checks.
Yeah. I think the spot checks and the results oriented, policing, I think in terms of the outcomes is because like coming from a cycling background, you guys would never believe the lengths people go to cheat. Like if you make like a little loophole this big and okay, your warm up procedure is this long, but there's 10 seconds where they're not watching you and you could do something, they would do it. Like it's crazy, like the EPO test is effective and the blood test is effective. So now guys just inject tiny amounts of blood just in the right windows so it would never show up on the biological passport. It's ridiculous. And there's money at stake in that, but it's also just about glory. And like, I hate to say it, but athletes do some pretty screwed up things. So catch them on the flip side, though. If you have this great performance and it doesn't match up, then like, sorry, I'm not
Well,
calling you cheater.
something else you could do, and I saw this somewhere, and you have a couple bike shops in every single state has a Zwift verified trainer. And if you're in Southern California and every single state, all over the world, right? I mean,
Like that. I
you
like
could,
that.
and you got to go in there and you put your bike on their trainer, and you better be able to do that power while they're sitting there watching you. And if you
Yeah.
can't, you're out.
Yeah. My only vision is a Sopranos type situation where like, you hand the guy $100 bill as you get on the trainer.
And
He loosens the belt a little bit and
and
forget
you
about it,
can't
right?
do everything, right? But I mean,
No, I
I
know.
feel like there's
I like that though, because like to be honest, and we'll talk about this testing stuff. I honestly think the testing is almost worthless
do you,
because you're leaving people to their own devices.
do you
So
want to go to the
uh,
testing now?
Well, I
let's
do want to insert
if
one
you want.
last suggestion before we move on to testing. Um, and this would just, this is obviously not workable for most e-cycling races. It's definitely not workable for the community leagues. But I think once we start looking at the world championships and travel restrictions ease, one thing I would very, very much like to see is putting all the athletes together in the same room on trainers in person.
100%.
We've seen this with Premier League, with Super League in triathlon. We're starting to see more of these sort of arena stadium style, like head to heads.
CVR was like
Right.
that
I would
years
love to
ago.
see it.
It
Yeah.
would be great viewing. and like you would have to have the biggest set of brass ones to do it in there to mess with your setup in there in front of. I'm sure someone will do it and get caught, and it'll be the best. You're
No,
like, what
no.
are you
I
doing?
mean,
with
this
your
is also
screen in
just
there?
me wanting to travel to race and being like, come on, I got to get out of my house.
No, that
Yeah,
that
it'd be
was something I
great.
was going to suggest when we have our eventually our special guest and we talk about esports worlds. Is like it has to be in person. It just has to be in person. It just it's got to be, and like you have to have all that stuff there. It would be so cool. I mean, they used to do it for CVR when that was a big thing. They used to they did it for the British Championships, a couple years ago, and that was super good viewing. I mean, it was really fun to watch, because they were doing things where guys got eliminated at the time, and
Yeah, that
women
was
got
great.
eliminated too. I didn't watch either of them, but I mean, I heard it was good viewing. Well, no, I watched
And
some of the men's when he got DQ'd,
Yeah,
Jeffers or whatever.
and the other thing I think that would lead to would help develop this very top amateur level, I mean, we see this with other world championships in triathlon. When I got to go compete at ITU world championships in age group, like going over and being in the amateur age group levels and then getting to stay and watch the professionals race on the same course is awesome.
that'd be
And
great.
I think that would just help build the community leagues. Like, you win B1, you get to go race in the same arena in, you know,
Yeah, and
Great Britain this year. Like, it's awesome, and that
it
brings
would help
a lot of
create
fun.
some stardom too, because like you could actually get media there and take pictures of the athletes that were doing it. And because when they published, Velo News did a good job of covering Worlds last year. They published the reports. I don't know what the winners look like. I know what Ashley Moolman Passio looks like because I'm a Zwift nerd. I still don't know what the other guy looks like. I have no
Jason
idea.
Jason Osborne, he's a cool looking dude. He has like cool blonde hair and stuff like because I
I don't
looked
know
him
that.
up. He just got silver in the Olympics. He got silver
Yeah,
in rowing.
no shit. Yeah, I
He is
mean, no
good.
crap.
He is good at stuff.
Yeah, he has
Oh.
a little bit of an engine in him, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Apparently he can just do whatever he wants. He
Yeah,
dunked over LeBron James the other day. It was crazy.
sure did. Yeah. Rumor has it Simone Biles quit the Olympics because he was going to come.
Yeah,
He was,
yeah. He was doing vault for Germany the other
yeah.
day. It was nuts. Okay. So that's A of A through F that we got through. We're really cranking through it today. So their
Didn't you
equipment.
say it was your recovery day? We're taking it at a nice, easy
Yeah,
pace.
I know. We could talk Zwift for like
Sticky,
3 hours.
sticky watts.
So they're trying to clean up sticky watts with the equipment and technique restrictions. I think this is a really good step, and I think it's a dangerous step at the same time because, there's some chatter on some of my discords. I know guys who stand up the entire time and ride at
Brain.
60, 65 RPM. We're calling you out, Johnny. Me and Jordan, we're calling you out. But and he's one of the best Swifters in the game. He's not doing sticky watts for sure. I mean, he's just, but it's not realistic, right? It's not.
No, I mean, who are you going to catch doing that? Like, oh, I looked at your video and your cadence is 58 instead of 64. And
I just think
so you're out.
I just think it's like really there's this weird slippery slope where Zwift is different than real life, and you don't want sticky watts. And I wish they would have just straight called that out. But you just got to be careful that like technique restrictions, like just be like, hey, you can't do this. And when they find something else, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
I
straight.
think it's more of a software algorithm thing that they need
Yeah,
to
that's
change,
exactly
if
what I
anything.
thought.
Like, it shouldn't be technique restriction. Like, if anything, like technique innovation is good for the sport. I mean, like that's why we have 4 individual strokes in swimming,
Yeah.
is because somebody was like, "Hey, I wonder if I put both arms over the water instead of just one."
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
like
that's
KBH
fine.
was like KBH was saying when he was on, it's like the low cadence can work for
Yeah.
Zwift racing in a way that it can't on the road.
Well,
Like it's a technique that's because on the road you need to accelerate so much quicker because of the drafting, dynamics. And so if low cadence is a thing that works on Zwift, like all the power to you.
Yeah, and
you know?
standing up, you don't need. I know Jackie, you said you stand up a ton. I know Ryan Larson on your team mentioned he stands up a ton when I was talking to him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
camera doesn't
Zwifting.
matter. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I think, and we're going to talk about UCI versus Zwift later, but I think Zwift gets itself into a little bit of trouble when it tries to make it look like real cycling, like the sock restrictions in the Premier League.
Oh, forget about
Like
it.
let people wear the goofy goggles and the goofy hat. Like it's just that's
So
part of
dumb.
Zwift. Like you look at and I always draw the parallels. I mean, it's super different, but also the like Fortnite and World of Warcraft. You can look ridiculous in these things. You can look idiotic, but no one is like, oh, well, that person, this is a joke. Or the people that do think it's a joke, they think it's a joke whether you're wearing a ones and zeros helmet or a ones and zeros hat with goggles on top. It's all code, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest. I always thought that the sock regulations were so that they could tell which rider was which.
No, it's a UCI rule. That's a mirror of the UCI rule, which the sock can. You're not allowed to race without socks, I guess, but you're not allowed to race with them up to your knees either.
Like I
And
think
you have to
Jackie,
have your shoulders covered. I think the fact that Tron bikes aren't allowed in the Premier League is stupid too, because the Tron bike is actually something of a spectacle for the viewer, especially the uninitiated. It's like, oh, what's going on there with those? It's kind of cool. And so are the disc wheels. Like, when do you ever see a road bike with disc wheel on it? It's all fine. That
yeah,
stuff. I mean,
I
maybe a story for another day.
I
But
think anytime
who-
Zwift tries to make itself like real life cycling in ways like that, in these superficial ways, I think it comes off bad.
yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
But like certainly if there are software issues where we're saying, oh, there's this lag in the software update that leads to this glitch in
Yeah.
interpreting power,
Yes.
that's great.
Thank you.
That's a software loophole. That's saying this software is misrepresenting what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
But if you're able to do something physically by, exploiting your own physiologic loopholes, we should capture that and celebrate that in sport.
Definitely. So our next point, I think, proves what we've been saying all along, that Eric Min is watching this. Okay. In real life rules apply on Zwift, i.e., no lapped riders can jump back in the racing at KOMs. Sorry, everybody.
For what? For what? Like, what's the reason? Who cares?
I mean, it's awesome. Hey, Eric. Hey, Charlie Isendorf. Hey,
You're watching.
John Mayfield. They're for sure. They must be. How else would this have happened, right?
I heard that YC isn't watching anymore because of last week. So
You should come
but
on. All of those guys, anytime you want. We will start a live stream for you whenever you want.
anytime.
But really, like, I again think this is Zwift getting too close to real life. Like, if you can game the hell out of this, game the hell out of it. Because
It's such a small thing too.
and the thing
Right.
is, the people who are doing that, it's not people who are going to win the race, and it's not really crappy people who couldn't affect it. The people doing that are like, so I'm going to say dudes because I only know the people in my race. So they were dudes who could put out like 1100 watts for a minute or whatever. Like, these were huge power guys who couldn't hang on for the race the whole time, but they could take the KOMs, right? It's just, it's
And
not like,
it doesn't affect it that much, and it's kind of fun to remark on. And it's Nathan
Yeah.
and Zwift Community Live are freaking out about it. It's kind of cool. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I,
You
I,
didn't maybe in the Premier League, sure, you don't do that because it's
I think you do it
detracts
in
from.
I think you do it in the Premier League. This is gamesmanship. This is, again, like, if you try to make this like the real world, it doesn't pan out right. It's like if you made online Call of Duty like actual fighting, it wouldn't be very fun because you get shot in the arm and then you can't, and then you just sit around and try to get, that's the end of your game. Like
You're quite right, Rick. If first person shooters were like real life, they would not be very successful.
right. They wouldn't be fun, right? And Zwift,
No,
if
you'd be dead.
yeah, like I mean, but like Zwift, like even in the Premier League, if you have someone who can bomb up Livy Hill in 48 seconds, let them let them try to bomb up it and soft pedal around and grab onto the group on the third lap and bomb up Livy Hill again.
I just don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I think they're listening to the wrong people about this, like some vocal minority that really is upset about it.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, you want me to be the vocal minority here?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so I will actually come in as somebody who has been, I have not been lapped on a race yet, knock on wood, but I have done actually quite a bit of lapping, both on Zwift and on RGT. And on RGT particularly, in the women's races, it was actually a very big deal. They did not do intermediate stages, but with the physics on there, we would actually see lapped riders hanging on to the draft, and particularly going into tight corners with enforced turns, having a lapped rider rejoin the peloton would actually cause difficulties for riders that had stayed in the peloton.
Hmm.
And you could actually see, okay, the group reforms. Now we go from a group of, let's say, 5 to a group of 13 because the chase group got lapped. Well, now the person who was like struggling, but, mostly making it with the first group is now in 13th place, gets kicked off the back on that first turn.
Yeah.
And that was actually a very, very contentious issue. We saw a lot of lapped riders. There was actually one time I was in a breakaway and came around. It was me, one other rider from Hibco, actually lapped the field. And as we were coming back through the field, the other rider suffered a dropout due to the computational difficulty of coming back through the field. So, I think there are visualization difficulties. If you're trying to stay with a pack and all of a sudden you rejoin and you're like, well, I don't know who I need to stay with.
Yeah.
I don't know who I need to race. I think there are certain difficulties with that. And unless you can give good visualizations to the riders that are like, oh, I need to stay with this breakaway because that's who's going to cross the line, versus, oh, this guy's been soft pedaling and he's just going for the sprint.
Yeah.
Like, that really does
because
change race tactics. And I don't see a good way of visualizing that. And you can really harm the front riders.
Well, in road racing, and we strive to be like real life, it's like actually, depending on the race format, crit, you can lap the field and get back in the field and interact as if it never happened. And you're a lap up and you still got to beat the guys you lapped with. And it's all to play for that way. So, maybe in certain Zwift events, it could be allowable if it was a short course. But I also think RGT is an important distinction because that platform does strive in a lot of ways to be more like real life, with that drafting and forced cornering and stuff like that. So the playing around with the lapping and stuff can make a real mess of things. Whereas on Zwift, I don't know that it presented any real issues for people other than the frustration that they got their butts kicked on those segments. So I don't know, I would stand by it doesn't belong in the Premier League because that's a crossover viewing product and normal cyclists are watching that as well and maybe getting into the sport by watching that top level. And as a normal cyclist, if you watch somebody come back to the Premier League pack and do a lead out, it would be like, what just happened? Like, what? Whereas on the ZRL, it's a game, it's fun, and that makes it more fun. I don't know.
It is annoying in like Crit City when you're coming around lap people and you get stuck. But I also think it's part of the game.
Yeah, and it is in real life as well.
It's interesting what you said though, Jackie. Yeah, it's really, especially from like a Tibco person's getting stuck out, and you would that'd be pretty obnoxious.
And Jacquie wins the argument because this is what Zwift is doing. So
yeah.
In the story.
I will say though,
personally, I thought you would just be vindicated by the fact that Zwift acknowledged your loophole to the point of saying, okay, well, you won this part of the game. Now you need to go find a new one.
I like that. I also want to point out Jacquie, and Jacquie is a very humble person. She is awesome, really cool. What a flex it was to say, I've never got lapped, but I've done a lot of lapping.
I've done a lot of lapping.
That I really don't.
Knock on wood, because I am now going to get lapped. I have put it out there into the universe, and I'm gonna get lapped.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to point that out. You're like so like a truly nice, humble person, and when you said that, I was like, I'm gonna make a note here and bring that up. Okay, let's see. All right, so here's the big one. I think there's a new pretest. There's a new pretest. It is a workout. It takes 65 minutes, and you do. Oh, I had it pulled up somewhere. So you do.
I've memorized it.
Did you? Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, 10-minute progressive. This is gonna see if I can do this. 10-minute progressive warm up, which is going to be built into the workout. It's not up to you. And then 1 minute where you start as hard as you can and just basically like ride that as long as you can. It's going to decay over time. And then you get a 4-minute break. And then you do a 4-minute all out test starting with an acceleration, which what does that mean?
I don't understand that.
Yeah. And then 4 minutes easy again.
7,
and then
7 easy. Okay. But yeah, you're nailing it so far. You're nailing it.
And then 7 minutes all out, which I've never heard of before. And then 12 minutes easy, and then 12 minutes all out, which I've never heard of before.
And then?
Oh, and then you get your, another 4 minutes easy, and then a 15-second sprint.
And then
another 15-second sprint.
Yeah, 4 minutes easy, 15-second sprint. An easy cooldown per test.
Yes. There you go. That's it.
So I feel that Jordan and Jackie have strong opinions here. So before we get to Jordan, though, Jackie, why don't you go ahead?
Don't want to do it. I'm already looking at this test and just being like, I mean, it's the Three Sisters. I don't like testing. I really don't. It's just a big psychological stress. I think, I build it up in my own mind of like, oh God, what if I'm like a lot worse than last time? And I will put everything out there. I will feel sick afterwards. And it's just stressful, and I don't like to do it. And always in a race, if there is a race where it really does come down to a 7-minute sustained effort, it's going to be under different conditions, and I'm going to submit my dual power anyway. So
yeah, so yeah, I get it. Not pleasant, right? That's not
like you kept saying, and then what, and then what, and in my mind I'm going like, I'm going to vomit, I'm going to die, I'm going to take some of my water bottle, and then we're going to die.
Pink water bottle, though.
Pink water bottle, yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a lot. And like, I'll get to that in a second. We'll start with the, caveat that I think testing for Zwift racing is useless because the proof is in the pudding and you dual record your races anyway. So if you're going to cheat on the race, you're going to cheat in the test. And I don't care how close you videotape it on YouTube. There's a will, there's a way. Who cares? And I thought the Three Sisters actually had a charm to it because it was a course and it was kind of variable and you didn't have to get stuck into a minute, like a 20-minute or you could kind of race it, and with your buddies too, you could race it, which I guess with the workout now, that part's gone. You can't go with your teammates and push each other.
No, it said you could still do it with your teammates.
You guys just all get in the same workout at the same time and rip. So that's whatever. But I actually have no idea where this test came from. I've done, and maybe here's my flex. I've been tested a lot by like different, the Ontario Cycling Federation, Canada, BC, whatever. Like in university, I did the exercise physiology. So I was the guinea pig a lot of times. I've never seen a 12-minute, 7-minute, 4-minute, 1 minute. Where is this coming from with equal recoveries? I've heard of the 1 minute starting all out and going down, but all separate. And I don't know what this applies to. I was thinking like, are there climbs on Zwift that are 12 and 7 minutes that they're trying to, pre-test you for? No. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. 12
I
minutes
mean,
is too short to get a
the
real.
closest thing I can think of is like the Dual 8 or Dual 10,
Yeah. Yeah,
FTP
which is a
test.
different thing
Which,
though, right? It's
yeah,
different.
it's not 7 and 12. And let's be
And
honest,
those
when we're FTP testing, 12 minutes is the dark night of the soul. Like, you're
yeah.
making me do the worst part of the test and then just stopping.
Yeah.
Like,
And from a physiology perspective, like, okay, 1 minute makes sense. That's it, pure anaerobic. 4 minutes makes sense. That's VO2. 7 minutes is just another VO2 with more suckage to it. And now you've loaded up with lactic acid on short
this is
recovery.
almost Volcano KOM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
But
again,
so-
like it's like VO2, but longer and more painful.
and
So
from a physiology perspective, with that level of recovery, you're kind of just doing a lactic threshold test. And then the 12 is just, it's a total in-betweener. It's some anaerobic, some aerobic. So yeah, it doesn't make sense physiologically. I don't know who they talk to about this. There are good tests out there, the 5 and 20, and you could add the sprint in there, the 2x8, you could add the sprint in the 1 minute. Or the 4DP test, which actually covers this really well and is used by the UCI testing center, which includes like a fatigued, as you go. I don't know that test off by heart like this one, but
what's that
That's
used
is
for?
what I used to do, and that is also terrible.
But what is it?
but at
But
least
yeah.
it's validated.
Yeah,
At
I
least-
mean, and the one I liked about that is it actually put the minute at the end of everything. So you're really testing like what is your fatigued power, and like
And you
it
don't ruin the rest of the
hurt.
test by, yeah, if you do that 1 minute first, you really ruin your ability on the other ones.
I mean, and that's what I did with my last 3 sisters. I took that. I mean, that's when I had to miss the episode because I lost my voice because I took out that minute too hard.
Yeah.
So
So
So-
right. So we have a question. Is the test for Premier League only? And hey Derek, how's it going? I'm not sure. I
Really?
think so the one reason I liked the test is it's 65 and a half minutes. I can
That's
do a
improvement.
65 and a half minute workout. 3 sisters takes me like 2 hours. Like I don't want to
It
do
takes
that.
me hours, man.
Oh, then it takes me
Like-
like 3. I've never done it because I don't want to do it.
Because you want to go so easy between the climbs that you're just creeping. It
Yeah.
takes a long time.
And I go really slow on the climbs too, so that's my
because I
flex.
have
You're
the
just
20 minutes.
creeping.
Yeah, it feels that
I
way.
was like, yeah, I've got a 20-minute warm up, and then it usually takes me 10 minutes to get everything else. And then it's 90 minutes to the end, and then I have to spend like a good 5-10 minutes just being like, holy God, my life is terrible. I need to spin down easy.
And
So, yeah, I don't think I've ever done the entire protocol in under 2 hours.
So I like the idea that the ZRL teams could also do this test, to Derek's question. And I like because I like the idea that, like my team, we are very big into transparency and to making sure everybody is like, and we're at the B level, we're at the high B level, but like we want some of that as well. But what after listening to you guys talk, here's my big question, and I don't understand the answer. What does this test show you? What is it for? Those other tests you talked about, why have you been tested so much, both of you? And like those tests told you about how fit you were, right? They don't give you any indication of like why would I do that?
So
Yeah. Well,
for me, I think the reason I'm not looking forward to this is because I'm not getting a benefit out of it. When I did my previous testing, my 4D power testing, I got a benchmark of where I was. I got my FTP, which is what I use to structure my training. I still stick with those numbers. Even today, I did a workout that was specifically geared around boosting my FTP and like hitting these targets. And that's how I train. And I don't mind doing a 20-minute time trial in a race because that's a race that's exciting, it's tough, but I'm pushing myself to the limit and beating others and there's competition. And here it feels like, well, I'm not getting a number that I can base my training off of, but I'm also not getting a race. Now, if Zwift was to turn around and say, hey, don't do this on your own time, This is not a metric that we need. This is race 1, and we're giving points to whoever can have like the highest sustained power for this and this and this. I'd be all for it. I'd be like, cool, they listened to us, they innovated, they're coming up with like new metrics and new ways to look at it, and maybe this will help other riders like ascend to the spotlight and excel. Cool, I'm getting the excitement of a race out of it. Yeah. But do this on your own time kind of feels like the teacher being like, yeah, go read chapters 1 through 5.
Exactly. So I'll play devil's advocate, and I'll say what Zwift thinks it's worth. Like, what's the purpose? They think it's worth testing the equipment in a situation, like testing your transparency in a situation where you're putting out the values that you will put out in the races. That's crap. Like I said, it doesn't work. Like, you can just cheat the same way you always cheated, and the duels don't need to match that well. And like, there's no bar to clear on that. It's just that's all in your head. And I think the other purpose would be like, let's look at the pure numbers here and let's compare them to the world's best, because if you used a test that exists, like a 4DP or an FDP test or whatever, you could compare those to world benchmarks, and there are thousands of data points of world-class athletes. There's a chart a mile long, I'm sure everybody has seen, with all the, and you could share. And then if you started to see like, oh, well, somebody did their 20-minute and it was world-class box number 1, and their sprint is also world box number 1, and their 5-minute, and it's like, oh, that person doesn't exist actually. Like, or we better pay attention to that person, or they went from box 38 to box number 2 in a season and a half, and that's not right. That could be useful for flagging. You could never accuse someone and say you're cheating based on your output, but you could start to pay attention and be like, yeah, you're flying pretty close to the sun there with that 6.7 watt per kilo 20-minute. But in this instance, there's no comparison at all. And so, like, I've never done a 12-minute test. I couldn't tell you what that would look like.
Well, and that's where I could see if it lined up with like the outside stuff you all have to do. I mean, and so to Derek's question, again, this must only be for Premier League because you all have to do outside rides too. So it must only be for Premier League. I could see if it was directly compared to outside, like
the Three Sisters test was closer to, at least.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, sort of got a 20 and a 5 and a 1 out of it.
Yeah, like I could see that more, but like
I
this,
mean, the
you're never
thing
gonna do that
that
outside.
Three Sisters did that this does not. Three Sisters did have a component of weight to it. Three Sisters was not a pure wattage test, because the lighter you were, you can go up the mountain faster. And so, the more watts you put out, the higher your watts per kilo, the shorter the intervals became.
Mm-hmm.
And this test has no effect. Like, if I go faster, if I go harder, the interval does not get shorter. Yeah, if I come in having chugged 2 liters of water right before the test, that 2 kilos is not going to make me any slower.
I'll stop you there. They're doing race protocol weigh-in for this. So you have to weigh in 2 hours before you start the test and have all that time stamped now. So, and actually, I think that could be a good thing. If this test actually made sense and you attach the weigh-in to it, then take that weight, and that is your weight for the season. And we get rid of this pesky weigh-in business, because your weight's not going to change that much. Anna, we talked about when she was on, right? There's no real statistical data that shows that people pile on weight or lose weight during the season to any degree. You're a big time athlete. Your weight is your weight. Like, you're training hard. So I think that's an opportunity, but that will not be taken probably. But that could be very positive, maybe.
I have a question for you both, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer because I talked to one of the SARS guys about it one time. But are there any team representatives on the Zada board?
I think that those Ceres guys are OG with the eSports.
They were. And so I talked to one of them about it one time because I was messaging him because, like one of his rides was like Zada emails. And I was like, dude, I was talking to him. I was like, you're on Saras or you're on Zada, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, that's me sending the Zada emails to Zada, and that's why I thought the answer is no. But it's interesting to me if there aren't any team representatives part of Zada.
Well, if there's one team representative, there should be all the teams represented, right?
And
It's not fair.
That's what I
fair
thought.
if one.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping you guys would be like, oh yeah, Courtney or whoever, Kejel.
No.
I don't know how to say his name.
I just wish that they would consult maybe some in real life, sports scientists that specialize in cycling and be like, oh, what's the test? What's the great test? And hey, maybe if we use a valid test, you could actually see some people post some numbers, and that could lead to them becoming professional cyclists in real life and living the dream, right? Because it would be valid data and teams would be interested. That's why the UCI does the test. Like they use this test a lot in their World Cycling Center in Switzerland because they take people from like underdeveloped countries that don't have the chance to race, and they invite them and they stay there and they test them, and like that's how they pathway people. So that could be an opportunity as well with this. If they consulted some, I just have the feeling that they're talking to Zwift racers about this, like that it's an inside, really like
I don't
my
think they're talking to Zwift racers. I haven't heard.
or Zwift people.
Yeah.
Zwift people.
So there's actually a guy on the next eSports team who we might have on sometime who is a professor of sports science. So he would be cool to talk to about this and like what they think. And I know like the SRS guys are deeply like I'm pretty sure Matt Brandt or Matt Gardner started the original Zwift anti-doping.
I think those guys were attached to it for sure. But it's certainly evolved. I don't know to what end on this stuff, but
then again,
I guess we'll just have to give it a rip, Jackie. We'll just have to see how it feels, both of us.
It'll be fun.
Terrible. It's gonna feel terrible.
You know what's gonna be awesome? Okay, so I'm gonna hit this 1,000-watt sprint before Jackie, and then while you're doing that test, Jackie, I'm gonna be eating the M&Ms you sent me.
Okay.
And I'm gonna troll you on Instagram, just like your team is trolling me on Instagram.
Hey, maybe we can stream Jackie's test. Nice. We could stream it on No Breakaways.
Yeah, there we go. Here is Jackie barfing in a garbage can.
Yeah. You want transparency? You got it, baby.
Yeah, we can get that all the comments going. I'll yell them at you.
Trying to think. I've only ever vomited after one race. So yeah, we could make it 2 and it wouldn't even be a race.
I think I vomited after a couple running races, and one time I gagged while I was on an open mic to my Discord team. Derek, the guy who asked that question, is actually listening to me gag that race. So,
Jackie, which course? Because you could pick any course you wanted for this workout. What course would you pick?
Three Sisters.
Honestly, I would pick Netflix on in the background.
I picked Tempest Fugit just so you didn't have inclines or anything, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's erg mode.
Oh, you have to do it.
Yeah.
No, is it?
Well, no, it's not because you're going for your best.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not. It's specifically
Fugit.
not erg mode, which I thought because, and I was looking, I was like, where is this workout at? This mythical workout because it references a Zwift file thing, and I was like, I wonder where this is. Did they send it to you all?
No.
I mean, they might. I know there are several workouts in there that essentially give you a pre-made incline. When I was in the CompuTrainer studio, that's the type of course we used for our different power tests. Is it would essentially just feed the trainer a specific incline. I know Zwift on several of their training plans have rider's choice. We'll just give you a straight incline of 0% or a straight incline of 1%, and you do whatever course you want. So I haven't looked that far into the workout yet to see what it's doing. If they did not fix an incline, I would definitely pick Tempest Fugit just so I had to think the least.
I think I would go with Vaughn too, because it's about an hour. So I just have incline to dig into as much as I wanted.
It's not about an hour. Maybe
if I was
let's be relatable to real people, Jordan.
We're talking about a Premier League test here.
It's an hour and a half or
Okay,
2
it's
hour
long enough.
hellscape is what it is.
Long enough. But my novelty answer would be Crit City. Just rip around there. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah.
Lap
Hey, it's
70.
flat.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I also wish Zwift would put in something for Crit City. If you hit 100 laps, there's some like weird Easter egg you get. That'd be cool.
Maybe there is Rick and you just haven't found it yet.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like that's the route badge that pops up out of nowhere. 100 laps on Crit City.
That would be like 6 hours or something. Maybe.
No. Crit City lap like 3 minutes.
I'm still beyond hoping that there's
300
like
minutes.
25 times up Ventop
5
because
hours.
I'm a terrible person.
You're gonna do what?
I'm still hoping that there's a 25 times up Ventop because I'm a horrible person and like pain.
I'll never find out if there's a 2-time up Ventop badge.
Just the one.
I got my Ventop badge. That's the last. If the France race, I'm putting it out to my team right now. If the France race in ZRL season has anything to do with Vent 2, I'm not riding it.
There you go. Rick has spoken.
I hate Vent 2.
Well, that's it for the esport rules, though.
Yeah. And as we predicted, we went long. So let's not even. We're at an hour 10. That we have tons of good topics. So let's just wrap it up. Oh, there's so much. Every week we get another topic. We're like, eventually we're just going to do an entire show on topics that we didn't get to. So
we're never talking about Simone Biles.
No, we're never. Yeah, we're going to talk about Simone Biles at the next Olympics. I really want to talk about that because I'm super interested in your guys' thoughts about it. It's going to be super cool. All right, so something I wanted to do, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we have a special guest next week or the week after, and then this would change. But we're thinking next week's topics, a little teaser, tell all your friends. The transfer season, the transfer market, I heard it referred to, which I really liked in Zwift, is right now. A lot of teams out there recruiting. Wink, wink to everybody. I want to talk about the transfer season and what it is, how it works, especially at the highest levels, like what we all think about it. Because it's happening in B too, where people are like, hey, come race with us.
Yeah, there's controversy about that too, eh? So
there is?
Oh yeah. Well, the whole ethic of should the big teams be sniping off the little teams as they come up,
That's what we're going to talk about next week, where none of us are going to comment on it now. Be quiet, Jordan. Be quiet, Jordan. I want to talk about that so bad now. Okay, let's keep going. I can't even get through next week's topics without us talking about the topics. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at this hosting thing. Okay, how to approach our winter race schedule. This is something very near and dear to my heart after I got incredibly burned out. And Jacquie and Jordan always have just amazing perspectives. So I want them to tell me how not to get burned out. And something going into the next ZRL season that we all need to think about, because I've ridden my indoor trainer for over a year without touching it, is bike maintenance and not forgetting about it and how to deal with it. And hopefully one of you can tell me how to actually do it. So
good one.
Yeah. Like that means you're going to want to talk to John rather than me, because he is the king of the sweaty socks. I'm just going to leave that there. That is the preview for next week, and you are going to spend all next week wondering what I mean.
Yeah, we're going to have to tag him in the preview for next week on Instagram. So, Jacquie, hit us with your sponsor plugs and all that.
Yeah, so still writing for Sarah's The Pros Closet for this upcoming season of ZRL. Drinking lots and lots of Noon, who also sponsors me because I'm in Southern California, and it's pretty hot here. And then finally, my coach, Chris Navin of 4-Star Endurance, he's actually the one that put me through a lot of this initial testing. And, Jordan alluded to it earlier, that was sort of a talent search. And he's actually the one that put me where I am now. So big shout out to him and getting me involved with racing.
Awesome. Yeah, Jordan, go ahead.
Oh, just the usual. Elevate Webplex and peakformcoaching.com. Season's getting closer every time we talk, so let's get some coaching done, folks.
Yeah, definitely. And shout out to all the viewers. Thank you so much for watching. Our viewership is steadily rising. Super duper cool. Really, we really truly do appreciate all of you in the comments, and leave your comments on YouTube. I always try to respond to everything. If you listen to the podcast, you can hit up the YouTube comments on stuff like that too. If you have topics you want to hear from us about, let us know. If you want us to do a team interview with your team and give the basics and give a shout out to the whole Zwift world, we will do it. Contact us. Let us know. It'd be super fun. If there's a guest you want to have on, let us know. We do have a super special guest that I'm super excited about. Just over the top. I plan on hitting up the dude who won the Olympic triathlon because he's on Zwift. What's he gonna say? No, probably, but we'll ask him anyways. So, but what if he comes on?
And what we really need to ask him is shorts or bibs, and then we'll prove Jordan wrong once and for all.
Only try people from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so please click like and subscribe. Do all that stuff. Follow us on Instagram, No Breakaways. Jackie's at Triantith24, still one of my favorite names. And Jordan is on Instagram, and I don't think he's got on it in the last 6 years because I tag him on stuff and he never says anything. He's apparently 85 years old, stuck in a 29-year-old body. You can find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. Just search for Outside the Draft. And thank you all very much. We really appreciate it. See you next week. There we go.